Okay, so this is called the refrigerator test, and I'm just going to read you the first of the three sections. Our protagonist is a kid. His name is Walter. It's not a kid-like name, but sometimes kids have grown-up sounding names. Walter took his Batman cup to the kitchen because maybe there was still apple juice. Ignorant of spirits, he had deduced Bruce Wayne's chosen tipple inaccurately. In the kitchen, the juice gallon sat on the linoleum floor next to the mustard, the apple butter, and a half dozen mostly empty jam jars. His mother was obscured by the open door of the fridge, but her arm emerged to set down Worcestershire sauce and some rounded nubs of butter clumsily wrapped. Walter poured the remains of the juice into his cup before making further inquiries. The clunk of the empty jug against the floor alerted his mother to his presence. "There you are," she said, as if it were him she were searching for among the condiments. "What's this?" he said, toeing a jar. "Ugh, horseradish. He puts it on everything." By he, she meant the grandfather. The grandfather had built this house and filled it with clocks and remote controls and antlers and things to spread on toast. But he had died, and it seemed the house might become theirs. Next, she pulled the plastic shelving from the fridge and balanced it diagonal in the sink. The smell drifting from the open refrigerator started sweet and then became fuzzy in the nostrils. She ran a damp rag over the interior walls. "Okay," she said. "Now, do you think you could fit in here?" Walter considered the space that she'd emptied. The rag hadn't banished the smell. The smell righted itself like an upset crab. "Maybe," said Walter. "I'd have to scrunch." "Probably a growth spurt," she said. "You've been eating so much." "Sorry?" said Walter. She shook her head, distracted. In the weeks of their residence in the house, Walter and his mother kept mostly to the room with the twin beds, living out of their open suitcases. Walter kept his Batman cup on the dresser next to his mother's contacts case and pill bottles. The first night, before they could go to sleep, she'd taken the dusty, glass-eyed pheasant off the wall and put it in the room with the tall bed. Most of the art was in there now, piled face down on the big mattress, the family portraits too. When his mother wasn't looking, Walter had been raiding the narrow cupboard next to the stove, snatched a handful of cornflakes, licked the flat crumbs off his palm. He would take a mini pretzel and hold it in his cheek until it turned to paste. He didn't think anyone would notice. And if he had this stuff in his stomach, his mother wouldn't have to buy so many groceries. But then yesterday, when she slept late, it seemed like hours. He'd started in on the fig Newtons. And in his heart, he knew it wasn't right, eating the dead man's dessert. "I need you to try," said his mother. Walter drained the Batman cup and took a step toward the fridge. The smell was stronger. "Why?" Walter and his mother had a deal. He could ask any question and get a truthful answer, even if it was something that kids his age didn't usually get to know about, even if the answer risked ruining his belief in father figures, a just world, or the tooth fairy. "It's an experiment," she said. Her eyes were evasive. "What do you want to prove?" The refrigerator, sensing the influx of warm air, commenced a loud whirring, as if humming to shut out what it didn't want to hear. His mother sighed and looked at the ceiling the way she always did when the answers were complex. "It isn't logical," she said. "Okay. I keep having a thought I don't like, and I need to prove to myself that the thought isn't going to come true." "Like with the locks?" She nodded grimly. "Can you tell me what the thought is?" She put her face in her hands to hide how red it suddenly grew. She shook her head, hands still pressed flat against her eye sockets, but Walter knew this was only the lead up to the answer. She didn't want to tell him, but that didn't mean she wouldn't. I need to know you will be safe," she said. The refrigerator hummed harder as Walter waited. "Okay," she said. "When I was little, they always talked about the ways that kids could die. They showed us film strips and taught us this song, a safety song. Never sniff glue, never play on construction sites. It always scared me." "The song did?" "It made me feel like we had to sing, like over and over, or we would bring on the bad things. A bottle of glue was like Briar Rose's spinning wheel. Bike pedals called out to bad drivers. Nobody was given safety. We had to sing for it. Okay, said Walter. I realize it isn't true, she said. I do know that. That's okay, said Walter. He climbed into the humming. He pulled his knees up so that they were under his chin. There, I fit okay. Her hand was trembling as she looked at him. The light went out the moment the door was shut.